Welcome to this week's episode of OpenAI Changes Everything. We're diving into a topic that impacts not just our dinner plates, but also our planet: food waste. Every year, about one-third of all food produced globally, that's about 1.3 billion tons, goes to waste. This staggering figure includes both food lost along the supply chain and food wasted by consumers. And in the US alone, about 30 to 40% of the food supply ends up wasted, affecting grocery stores, food banks, and households. But the impact is far greater than just wasted food. Food waste accounts for 8 to 10% of all global greenhouse gas emissions, contributing 5 times the negative environmental impact of the entire aviation sector. Today, we're talking to Lawrence Stevens, co-founder of FridgeGuide AI, an innovative company tackling this massive problem head-on. We'll explore how AI can play a crucial role in reducing food waste, particularly by supporting food banks and helping households make better choices. Stick around to find out how technology is being leveraged to turn this challenge into an opportunity for a more sustainable future.
This is where AI can make a huge impact because currently most food banks rely on a very manual operated process. It's often just pen and paper. And to analyze produce, determine expiration dates, identify mislabeled food, it really starts to become very tedious, very manual. So my favorite thing about AI is that it can take a lot of that away. It can help these employees and these volunteers at these food banks track everything more efficiently. And so, through this process, we could potentially reduce food waste from 5% to as low as 1%.
And please, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Your continued engagement is what makes it possible for me to continue to do these interviews. We have exciting episodes coming up that tackle topics such as responsible AI and AI in higher education.
This is the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast with your host, Stephen Walther, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today I am super excited to have Lawrence Stevens with me. Thank you, Lawrence, for being here today.
Hey there. How's it
And
going?
let me start by giving a brief bio. Lawrence Stevens is the forward-thinking co-founder and chief operating officer of FridgeGuide AI, an innovative company transforming food management for businesses and organizations through artificial intelligence. With a strong commitment to reducing food waste and supporting sustainability efforts, Lawrence and his team are pioneering AI-driven solutions for food banks and other large-scale operations. All right, let's dive right in. So you guys are going to solve world hunger.
Well, solve is a big word, but I think what we're excited about is, we really want to make a difference.
Uh-huh.
My boyfriend slash co-founder, we started this company together, and since the beginning, we were just very passionate about realizing that food waste is a huge problem. In the U.S. alone, 120 billion pounds of food goes to waste every year, and just that stat alone was shocking to learn about. And so, thinking about that and realizing how many people that don't have, basic necessities like food, I mean, that's something that we feel like is a disparity and something that we can try to make a true difference on.
So what I heard from that was yes, yes, you do want to solve world. So which is awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
Well, I want to. So
totally.
I actually came across FridgeGuide AI while looking at the UN AI for Good global summit, and impressive list of people there. I noticed you were one of the exhibitors there. I'm curious about, like, can you give me some like background on that very impressive summit that happened in Geneva? Can you tell me, what was the summit for? What types of attendees came to it?
Yeah, totally. Happy to break it down, Stephen. So, the purpose of the AI for Good Summit is to identify practical applications of artificial intelligence, and with the main goal to accelerate progress towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. and then eventually scale those solutions for global impact. So, what I admired most about the summit is how each innovator in attendance strives to make a positive impact on the world, specifically with their AI focused product. One of my favorite companies that I saw there was called Dot Lumen. They're based in Romania, and what they're doing is they're developing glasses for the blind that use self-driving technology. So what it does is it's scaled down to like a headset that goes over your eyes, and then it replicates the main features of a guide dog.
Huh.
So it's really cool because like
Yeah.
people were trying these on at the conference, and they were like, "Whoa, like this is so neat." Like, and the founder himself, he was super passionate because like I think it was the first time too I met somebody from Romania, and so he just was so proud of his country and to be able to kind of launch this product and getting the feedback that he was getting. So that was something that was really cool to see on site.
That's awesome. So it was an environment with a lot of AI innovators coming in, showing their products. I noticed, I mean, again, it had like guests like Sam Altman there and Jeffrey Hinton and oh my, I mean, wow, rock stars of the AI world. Also the Secretary General of the UN gave a talk. Did you see and did you go to any of the talks? Did you see any of these people walking around in the on the conference floor?
Yeah, yeah. So I caught Sam Altman's his talk. It was virtual, but he was just like answering some really like tricky questions that were being thrown at him because I feel like OpenAI has grown so much since
Yeah,
the beginning. So it's like he's put under a lot of scrutiny.
yeah.
But it was great. It was great to see where he's taking the company. And in terms of actual prominent people that we met like at our booth. We met the founder of ITU, the Inter Telecommunication Union, which is the company that actually started AI for Good. And so his name is Stephen Ibaraki. And Stephen is amazing. He works with more than a million CEOs, investors, scientists from around the world. And he's also a VC investor for Reds Capital. So when we met him on site, we were just honored to get some good feedback on our product and to kind of pick his brain a little bit. Just because, I mean, when else do you get to meet,
Yeah.
people in the tech space, UN ambassadors? I mean, I think we were very humbled by the experience. It was truly amazing.
That's exciting. And I want to ask you, how did you, were you the ones, did you decide, did you like, like submit an application to do that? Did people reach out to you? How did you decide you wanted to be involved in this summit?
Yeah, yeah, great question. We met initially with the head of partnerships at ITU. Her name is Jennifer, and she was so friendly. Like, she's based out of Geneva. She talked with us about the opportunities. She gave us an amazing space. Like, literally, as you're walking into the session doors, our booth was right there. So we had great foot traffic, and so, we thought, hey, if we can line this up with the release of our B2C application on the App Store, I think it's a win-win because then we can show the app to people on these iPads. We can give away some cool swag
Oh
items.
yeah.
We can have like we had what was it, an air fryer giveaway. So like we were trying to make it appealing for people to come by and say hello.
Yeah.
And my background, Steven, is in event management. So
Uh,
I've been doing that for about a decade before I founded this company. And so I love the opportunity to like meet people, network, and
sure.
I don't know, like it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Um, and so, question, how does the product, and we'll get into, I think more of the details of the product later, but so how does the product that you're building, how does it like help with the UN sustainability goals? How does it fit into what the UN's trying to do?
Yeah. So since founding FridgeGuide AI, our mission has been aligned since the beginning with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of zero hunger, which is number 2,
Mhm.
and responsible consumption and production, which is number 12. With our solution specifically right now, we're aiming to transform the food bank industry by improving how they manage and distribute food, while feeding more people and significantly reducing food waste at the same time. So, in all honesty, when we were talking with the head of partnerships from ITU, and she kind of pointed out to us, oh, your company is fulfilling these SDGs, we were like, oh, it seems like a match made in heaven, because it was something we hadn't really considered about, connecting with the UN before, but it was definitely eye-opening to us, and it kind of also made us see like, oh, there's like a lot of potential here, and so that made us feel good.
So help me understand, because I don't know anything about food banks, food pantries. I don't really understand how food gets distributed, where it comes from. So I'm trying to understand like the problem that you're trying to solve. Can you give me kind of like an overview of what is the problem and like how is it being solved now? What's the existing system in place?
Yeah, I'd be happy to break it all down. So currently there are approximately 60,000 food pantries and programs in the United States alone. They receive food through two primary channels. The first is through donations, and then the second is through vendors, from major grocery chains like Costco, Walmart, Kroger, you name it. And the food that's received is often random. And
Uh,
so it requires proper organization for distribution to like individuals, to smaller food pantry nonprofits. And so this is where AI can make a huge impact, because currently most food banks rely on a very manual operated process. It's often just pen and paper. And to analyze produce, determine expiration dates, identify mislabeled food, it really starts to become very tedious, very manual. So my favorite thing about AI is that it can take a lot of that away. It can help these employees and these volunteers at these food banks track everything more efficiently. And so, through this process, we could potentially reduce food waste from 5% to as low as 1%. Because when we were talking actually with the San Diego Food Bank, they were telling us that, like, oh, you know, food waste at our food bank is from 3 to 5% just because our inventory management, isn't up to par. And so we need to have like some kind of solution to make it better.
let's get super concrete here. I'm trying to envision exactly how it works. Is the idea like they're taking incoming donations and somehow this system will allow them to more easily track, like the food coming in? Is it tracking somehow expiration for things like produce and veggies and all that? And how does that work? I mean, how does all that information, how does AI help solve that? Especially when, I'm like thinking of a, loading deck at a like a food bank and the food coming in. What's your vision for how this would work?
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of, I guess, that kind of dives a bit into the background of our company. So initially, our company, FridgeGuide, it started as a B2C application on the App Store to help users improve their grocery management skills through AI automation. Now, to answer your question about what that AI automation is, um, you can verbally list your grocery purchases, or you can scan grocery store receipts. All of that information is transcribed, and so it provides you with item quantities and item expiration dates. And then so from there, it can show you based on the user's dietary preferences what recipes you can make. The recipes are also AI generated, so it'll show you, recipes based on cuisine type, serving size, cooking appliance, you name it. And how this pivots into food banks is specifically with the grocery management aspect. You could either have the volunteers or the employees list out what food that they're receiving from the donations, or you can scan a receipt from that. But ideally, where we see it going in the future, that is very exciting for us, is with AI image recognition. Now, at the AI for Good conference, there were already developers that were finessing this, trying to make AI image recognition better and better. And to be honest with you, Stephen, it's not quite there yet.
Hmm.
I feel like AI image recognition still has a long way to go, because we've tested out different platforms and it's always 50-50. Just because sometimes items are so packed
Right.
and tightly knitted together, it's hard to get exactly what's there. So I think that AI can get there,
Yeah.
and I think it can make, inventorizing way easier.
So this is kind of like I don't know if you have Amazon Freshes in the automated ones in San Diego, the ones where you just walk in, you fill the cart, and then you just leave. You don't pay, where it's doing, crazy machine learning AI stuff with all the cameras. So you're trying to think of like getting to that Amazon Fresh like experience. You're thinking of being able to get that level of automation, ideally, that if there's a lot of inventory coming in, then it could automatically, if the vision was there, and it sounds like you don't think it's quite there yet, but if that's the kind of experience that you're trying to get to, that just that kind of Amazon Fresh automatic inventory management, just to make things so much more efficient and be able to track like expirations, make sure you're using food that's still good and you're not wasting food that is good. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I'm glad you pointed out the cameras. We actually had a conversation with Qualcomm about like their cameras and what they use it for. And so similar to Amazon Fresh, the cameras make a huge difference. I think for food banks though, since they're more budgetary conscious, the cameras can get expensive. So
Yeah.
we're thinking if you have like an application like on your phone and you can just,
Yeah.
take a photo, then that eliminates so much of like the worry about, oh my gosh, I have to buy all these cameras. Like, is this going to work? Like, can we afford this? So like for food banks, yeah, like having it on device would be the best way to go, I think, and in the future.
And so you mentioned you've talked to the San Diego Food Bank. I'm assuming you've talked to some other food banks as well. Are they saying that this is a big problem that needs to be solved right now? What's the urgency priority of this for them?
Yeah, yeah. So we're continuing to interview food banks from around the country and actually some in Canada as well to validate the issues being experienced. Really, the issue is specifically with the produce. We realize that sometimes produce goes to waste because they can't donate it quick enough because it expires.
Yeah.
So it's a big issue that's occurring. The conversation initially started with the Mid Ohio Food Collective. They were kind of the ones as we were pitching our demo of our B2C application to them. They were like, oh, we have no way of properly tracking our inventory. And so we started looking into it from there and we're like, oh, this is an actual thing. Like some food banks, they totally have like a system that's working for them and it's awesome. And then others, not so much. It's still like kind of pen and paper,
Yeah.
manual. So we're thinking, okay, how can we streamline this? How can we make it easy across the board? But at the same time, Stephen, like we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to create an entire inventory management system. We just want to focus very specifically on, how we can improve, monitoring the produce, the mislabeled cans, all that stuff.
That makes sense. And so are you thinking of the main customers of FridgeGuide AI moving forward? Is it like food banks? Is that who you're going to target? Or I guess I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I guess there's the customers and the end users. There's is that sort of your main sort of use case that you're pursuing?
I think for pilot programs, it would be, but the exciting thing about it that we want to go into is our ecosystem can expand out into restaurants,
Hmm.
cafes. They really do need assistance with donating surplus food to food pantries. And in addition, they need to figure out ways of receiving tax write-offs in a more efficient manner. I think a lot of times restaurants and cafes, they'd rather just throw away the food if,
Yeah.
it's too difficult to go through these channels, the red tape, and then not be able to get their tax write-offs as easily. So if we can make it easier for those businesses as well, I think it definitely can expand beyond food banks.
Oh, that's interesting. So you think long term your main customers might be actual restaurants that are doing the donations because they need an efficient method for doing this. So they'd be willing because I guess in my mind I'm wondering, food banks, they're not going to have a lot of money. So they're not going to be, very good paying customers. It's hard for you guys to pay your salaries and do the investment and the technology you need. But you're thinking that sort of bigger picture, restaurants can help sort of drive this because they also have an interest in making this whole system work. Is that
Yeah, totally.
okay?
Yeah. I think though too, like something that was interesting with the Mid Ohio Food Collective, going back to them for a moment, is they had a chief innovation officer that focused specifically on innovative technological solutions. So sometimes the food banks do have the money to be able to support this. Not all of them though,
Yeah.
but it was interesting because I think with Feeding America specifically, which is connected to the Mid Ohio Food Collective, they can kind of support some of these technological advancements. But mind you, you make a good point. Like not all of them can, especially the smaller ones. So yeah, if we can expand it out into the restaurants and cafes space, that could be a good potential channel as well.
Interesting. And would you ever think about a commercial version of this product for, you're talking about inventory management for food banks. I'm assuming, companies like Costco or even restaurants and all of these, they also run into the same issues of management, of inventory management at scale. Is this also a possible avenue for you guys in the future, or are you focused purely on the nonprofit space?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Stephen, that's kind of where this all started with our application. When we got it on the App Store, we were thinking, oh, we can connect, with a grocery chain, and it could be as efficient as, you take all your grocery items to check out, and then everything that is scanned is automatically uploaded into the app. That was like kind of like one of our initial thoughts with Fridge Guide. But then as we started thinking more about it, we were like, like with Instacart, with Amazon Fresh, with all of these like big companies that are kind of already, in the space, we wanted to kind of find our niche,
Yep.
find our area where we could specialize in. And to be honest with you, to fulfill our mission even more, food banks, I think, were the most enticing. And then from food banks, expand from there.
That makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
how can we help? How can members of the audience help? How can I help? How can we help you support this? What's sort of the next for you? What are you looking for? What's the next stage for you guys?
Yeah, yeah. So we're currently raising our pre-seed round of
Nice.
funding. And yeah, right now we're really eager to connect with food banks to build stronger partnerships. These interviews we've been conducting have been so eye-opening. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about market research is like you think you know what the problem is at first,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, but wait, there's like three other problems.
Right.
So, I mean, that's been the cool thing. So, I guess long story short, feel free to reach out to us directly. We have a contact form on our website, FridgeGuide AI. And yeah, we're always open to new connections and even just a conversation if you're interested in learning more about what we have to offer. So, yeah.
Uh, well, thank you for your time today. This was super informative. You're working on, I mean, world hunger. That's a worthwhile thing. So excited about what you're doing. Yeah, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
Thank you for joining us for the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity. Please remember to subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes.